On this episode of China Uncensored, turns out nuclear weapons might not be North Korea's most dangerous weapon. Actually, they probably are, but this is also concerning. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. So, you know how everyone's been freaking out that North Korea might develop and launch a nuclear weapon? Well, it turns out you don't need to worry about that. You need to worry about North Korea launching a nuke and possibly launching global cyber attacks. Since you're currently on the internet, you've probably heard of the massive cyber attack that began on May 11th.
The magnitude of the attack here is tremendous. We're talking 200,000 computers across 150 different countries. So this is really the biggest cyber shakedown in history.
The attack is called WannaCry, which is how I feel every time I look at the news these days. Around the world, university, business, and local government computers were greeted with this. Oops, your files have been encrypted. Sorry, it was an honest mistake the hackers made. They'll gladly fix it for you if you just pay them $300 in bitcoins. However, if you don't, 3 days later, the price gets doubled to $600. And after 7 days, the files are deleted. It's a type of attack called ransomware, like software, but with ransom. I'm sure you understand. Who's to blame for this outrage? Well, it might be North Korea. Cybersecurity firms Symantec and Kaspersky Lab have identified code in a version of the WannaCry virus that is linked to the Lazarus Group. That's the same group that was behind the Sony Pictures hack in 2014. They're also known for stealing $81 million from Bangladesh's central bank, and they work for North Korea. That isn't enough to say this attack was definitely done by North Korea. For example, some experts say this ransomware attack isn't how North Korean hackers usually operate, or that it's possible that other hackers just borrowed the code from Lazarus, which makes the dark web sound kind of like the friendly neighborhood where your next-door hacker can ring your computer and ask to borrow a cup of code. The point is, we don't know for certain that North Korea is behind WannaCry. But one good thing that's come out of this is now people are paying way more attention to the danger of North Korean cyber attacks, thanks to the sudden media focus. Unless you're talking about the focus of Chinese state-run media, which are blaming another country for the cyber attacks. Guess which one? China Daily says the U.S. National Security Agency must shoulder some of the blame. Oh great, it involves the NSA. That's so embarrassing. My favorite state-run media, the Global Times, said many criticized the U.S. government, saying that it was responsible for this spread of ransomware. Obviously, this accusation is reasonable. Obviously. Just as reasonable as the People's Daily, comparing it to the hacking scene in Die Hard 4. Yes, they did. How, you ask, is the NSA responsible for this cyber attack? Apparently, the NSA has been exploiting a flaw in Microsoft Windows for years with a hacking tool known as Eternal Blue, which is also how I feel every time I look at the news. Apparently, a hacking group called the Shadow Brokers got their hands on it and made it public last month. And that's how the alleged North Korean hackers were able to pull this off. Allegedly. So the NSA messed up. But that's not the whole story. Let's back up for a moment and talk about North Korean hackers. The reason that hackers like the Lazarus Group are able to pull off massive cyber attacks is thanks to decades of training, internet access, and office space that was given to North Korea by, you guessed it, China. Oops. Yes, according to North Korean defectors, China is largely responsible for the growth of North Korea's cyber espionage abilities. And they learned well. According to the Korea Institute of Liberal Democracy in Seoul, today an elite squad of 6,800 North Korean state hackers are engaged in fraud, blackmail, and online gambling that together generate annual revenue of $860 million. It's the only way the poor, starving leaders of North Korea can fund themselves with those mean old sanctions the UN put on them. That plus gun running, jewel smuggling, illegal gambling, counterfeiting, and drug deals out of its embassies worldwide. And again, North Korea's hacking skills are thanks largely to decades of support from the Chinese Communist Party. So it's ironic that the country hardest hit by WannaCry, which, even if not done by North Korea, definitely used North Korean code, was China. I bet he does WannaCry. The Global Times says about 40,000 Chinese institutions have been affected. Of those, 4,000 were academic, including Tsinghua University and Peking University. So if the Chinese regime gave so much support and training to North Korean hackers in the past, why would North Korea want to cyber attack the hand that feeds it? Isn't that sort of evidence it might not be North Korea behind the attack? Well, not necessarily. Relations between China and North Korea are increasingly bitter. Former Chinese leader and super ghouls and ghosts wannabe Jiang Zemin was awkwardly close with Kim Jong-un's daddy, but current leaders Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un are not even friends. They haven't even had a state visit/slumber party. And now Xi Jinping is apparently working with President Trump, so I wouldn't be too surprised if Kim is a bit jealous. But there could be other explanations too. It could have been a cyber attack that unexpectedly hit computers in China in a way that North Korean hackers didn't intend. Or it could possibly not have been North Korea at all. Either way, it probably wasn't a good long-term strategy for China to be training North Korean hackers. What do you think about North Korea's new weapon and the attack on China? Leave your comments below. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Chappell. See you next time.